Batman was a movie that truly impressed me. It was atmospheric, engaging, but most importantly, surprising. Full of strong performances, action set pieces, and impactful reveals, it had me on the edge of my seat many times throughout. No, I don't think it has everything that makes The Dark Knight a masterpiece, but while there are definitely some areas where the film could have been more well-rounded, it was an overall thoroughly enjoyable ride from start to finish. More importantly though, the Batman is a shining example of what the superhero genre needs. In a genre that is getting quite stale and overdone at this point, shaking up the formula goes a long way. The Batman doesn't try to be something that will please everyone, nor does it even try to fit the conventions of the superhero genre. Rather, it brings a distinct visual style and atmosphere, demonstrates a strong focus on the plot, and strives to tell a gritty detective story above all else. This superhero movie is truly great, and we need more movies like this one. But before we proceed, there will be spoilers. Alright, let's break it down. Think back to the last superhero movie you watched that had a very distinct visual style and use of the camera. Having trouble? It's difficult for me too. However, I thought back to Raimi's Spider-Man movies. Raimi is a horror director by origin, and you can really see that in the way he portrays his villains. The fact that Raimi wasn't making an MCU movie is one of the reasons his style and use of the camera is so distinct. He's an independent director who doesn't have to conform to a style that's already been established. The shots in this trilogy are creative, surprising, and have a much larger variety compared to the majority of the MCU. The campy style of the trilogy also feels noticeably different from even The Amazing Spider-Man, where the atmosphere and tone are a lot less wacky than Raimi's movies can be. All this is to say that when a director doesn't feel the pressure to fit a predetermined visual style, tone, or atmosphere, the result can be a lot more surprising and interesting. And that's exactly what we get with The Batman. Director Matt Reeves and cinematographer Greg Fraser did something really special here. Shots can be long, full of shadows, and subtle movements that build intensity. Even fight scenes seem to have less rapid-fire cuts, capturing the methodical and brutal fighting style of Batman, as he's portrayed in this movie. The film takes its time with each scene, and the opening shot and others like it are great examples of this, as we get a cool POV of someone being watched from a distance through a window. Lighting, and the absence of lighting, are used spectacularly to keep the audience attentive to what they're watching, with fantastic contrasts and sources of light piercing the pitch darkness. The movie is a joy to the eyes, despite almost all of it taking place at night, which is a great accomplishment. Additionally, the style of the movie seems even more grounded in reality than Nolan's trilogy. Wayne Enterprises doesn't have convenient military tech for Bruce to use in his nocturnal adventures. Instead, the Batmobile is more of a souped-up car, his glider is an actual wingsuit that's really inconvenient to use, and his other gadgets are quite limited. Even the villains here are more grounded. Falcone controls the city through leverage and bribery. The Penguin is a crime lord who holds power through his position over others. And the Riddler is an orphan, too weak and invisible to expose the corruption in his city, who manipulates Batman and others to accomplish his goals. There's no fear gas or super strength here, just humans in a battle of wits and a struggle for power. Overall, visually, thematically, and stylistically, The Batman is a departure from the typical superhero fare, creating a dark, grounded world into which we become immersed. While I haven't seen the majority of the modern DC movies, I do know that one thing the MCU loves to focus on is their characters. And while sometimes I think they fail to create meaningful growth for said characters, there are cases in which this character focus pays off well. It's always enjoyable to see how our heroes grow, learn, and evolve over the course of a movie or trilogy. And while Marvel is praised for its pantheon of lovable heroes and dastardly villains, an area of weakness I think most casual fans will see is the plot of these movies. After 27 entries in the cinematic universe, the standard plot structure is holding back movies like Black Widow and even Shang-Chi from being truly groundbreaking. Even movies I love, like Spider-Man No Way Home, have a somewhat generic plot layout. While there may be surprises and reveals, I wouldn't say there were many twists and turns that truly changed the course of the movie. Obviously, this is okay. Not every movie needs a complex plot, and a lack of one didn't stop No Way Home from being my favorite movie of the year. But what I am saying is that the decision to redistribute the focal point of the movie towards the plot is one that sets the Batman apart from the rest of the crowd. The Batman is not what everyone will want in a movie. It's a movie that makes you think, and it can be confusing at times. But because it makes you think, it's immensely more satisfying to watch unfold. And while it's satisfying, it's never predictable. The larger plot builds slowly and steadily, with smaller conflicts and climaxes throughout, punctuated by new information that sends Bruce in interesting new directions. The villains, too, are not as straightforward as they seem. The Riddler is the villain on the poster, but Falcone and the Penguin also play pivotal roles in the story, and at times I couldn't tell who was the biggest threat to Gotham. Additionally, the movie makes effective use of its extended runtime, and where something like The Eternals is an absolute slog full of useless filler, the Batman makes sure to show us only what is valuable to the story and world. The conversation regarding genre in superhero movies is an important one, and one I feel is overlooked. Something I've found throughout the past few years is that I really enjoy movies that combine the superhero genre with another genre. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which I think many will say is one of the best MCU movies, is a superhero movie, but it's also a spy thriller. The plot is actually a lot less formulaic, with less straightforward villains, and some mystery elements here and there. And while the camera work and visual style aren't notable or distinct for the MCU, thematically it feels like a refreshing take on what could have been a very by-the-book sequel. Logan, while definitely a more extreme example of defying a genre, is an intense action drama about an old and weary Wolverine getting roped into one final journey. It's gritty, patient, and captivating to watch, and a stellar example of taking a hero outside of their typical genre to create something new. The Winter Soldier and Logan do a fantastic job of combining genres and stepping outside of genres respectively to create something fresh, and the Batman is the most recent example of this. The Batman is simply a great example of how to do a compelling detective story. First and foremost, that's what it is. It forsakes a typical superhero plot structure in place of a slow burn investigation. It doesn't look for laughs or smiles, but rather seeks to present a thrilling mystery that keeps the audience hooked. Because of its distinct visual style and atmosphere, its redistributed focus on the plot, and its restructuring of genre, the Batman is a perfect example of what filmmakers should be doing with their movies in the future. We need more superhero films like The Batman. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed hearing what I think about The Batman and everything it gets right. I'd love to hear what you thought about the movie down below, as well as any responses you may have to this video. Additionally, let me know if there's anything else you think I should make a video about in the future. Leave a like if you enjoyed and dislike if you didn't, even though dislikes are invisible now. Thanks again for watching, and have a pleasant day.